All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your guest or your host, Omar, and here, as always, right, we talk about leadership in the boutique retail space, whether that's wireless retail, AV solutions, appliances, and the likes. And today, one of the biggest things I want to talk about is being prepared as a leader, right? Being in leadership isn't about luck. We got lucky about hitting the numbers. No. Leadership is about preparedness. You gotta be prepared as a leader, whether it's for your day, whether it's for the week, the month. You have to have some kind of preparation. You have to know where your strengths are going to be, what your weaknesses are, and have some kind of plan of attack, right? Of how you're going to go about achieving certain things, knowing that, hey, you know what, we're going to have certain shortcomings, but this is how we're going to adapt. This is how we're going to manage this portion, okay? Otherwise, if you're unprepared as a leader, burnout happens and it's real. And that's one of the reasons why you see yourself working such long hours, having to go after, and take care of fires that are constantly popping up left and right. To you seem like a hero. You feel like a hero at the beginning because you're taking care of so many fires that are coming up, not realizing the fires are completely avoidable. The fires are essentially an issue that you're allowing to happen to keep you busy instead of tackling the real things that matter and not letting these fire drills eat up so much of your time. Okay? It's a hard lesson to swallow. It's a hard lesson to take. It's the truth. I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm here to help you become better at what you're doing. Okay? Now, if you don't have a plan for your team, don't be surprised when they don't have a plan either, right? If you're wondering why your team's not able to, achieve certain goals, certain metrics, if you're wondering why it feels like they're unprepared, hey, you're allowing it to happen because they're emulating and mimicking their mentor. So if you as a leader are being unprepared, if you're doing a store visit and you don't really have like a plan of attack, if you don't have a schedule that, all right, let's go ahead, this is what we're going to tackle today during the visit, boom. And your team should know that ahead of time. They should know when you're doing visits. I'm not saying, unscheduled visits aren't, something you should be doing. What I'm saying is that, hey, if your team knows that you're going to be there for, a certain time for a visit, all right, cool. They should know what you're going to do. And yes, as a leader, I get it, as a district sales manager, as a regional, as a director, there are certain things that are just going to pop up in your schedule that you're going to have to take care of during a visit. All right, make sure the most important task during your visit is taken care of. Make sure your leaders, make sure your teams know like, hey, this is going to be the most important thing we're going to tackle and handle today. Let's get it done. And you should be doing your visits when your leaders are in, right? For your scheduled visits. Now, if you're doing, unscheduled visits and you're popping in, hey, I'm close to the store, I gotta pop in real fast, take care of some admin stuff. All right, cool. That's fine. Your team shouldn't be surprised. They shouldn't be aghast that you're just randomly popping in. If they are, then there's an issue. And I've been with companies where that was the case. I've taken over territories where that was the case, where they see you and they're like, oh shit, what's going on? Why are you here today? That's what's running through their mind. And you're getting calls because the leader's not there, like, hey, and the leader's calling you like, hey, I'm not there. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I just popped in. I got to handle some stuff. What are you worried about? Your team should not be walking on eggshells when you do a visit. That means that your team's unprepared. That means you're not mentoring. That means you're not guiding. That means you're not coaching. You're not developing. You're not training your team. Just by that fact alone, that is an issue. If you're taking over a territory, that's what it feels like when you step in, then guess what? There's a lot that needs to be adjusted. Culture, as what you may call it, it can be taken care of, it can be adjusted. And it happens through training and developing. Because training and developing means there's communication happening. That is very, very important. Okay? And when you don't do training and developing, when you say you're too busy, I don't have enough time, that just means that you're not preparing for the week. It means you're not preparing for the month onto what you need to get taken care of, what needs to be the most important aspects of what needs to get taken care of during this week, this month, this quarter, right? Going in, you should always have a goal in mind. And I've always talked to my employees, my leaders, let them know like, hey, going into this quarter, this is what our goal is going to be, right? We smashed this. Now our focus is going to go to this. We're not going to drop this. We're just going to focus to what's going on. And that's going to be a super important thing that we want to ensure is happening. Now, being an unprepared leader, right? Once again, it means that your team's going to be reacting to everything that happens instead of going in and feeling confident about being able to take care of what is popping up, right? Okay, there's a focus on this KPI right now for this week, this month, because the rest of the company is hurting. Cool. We're doing solid. Let's try to lift it up a little bit and see if we can help offset some of the other territories in our region. You're coming in as a hero. You're taking care of that. But that happens through being prepared as a leader, okay? Because when you're not prepared and shit hits the fan, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back to the level of your training. So if you're not training, if you're not developing your team, what are they falling back to? Like chickens with their heads cut off. Don't do that to your team. It's simple as that, right? Here's the thing, I've said it before. Part of this, yes, it's your fault, okay? Take ownership of what it is. The other part of it is that you don't have a leader or anybody in the company who's actually trained and developed you as a leader. So you're learning this on the road. You're learning this, right, through the ringer. And it sucks because you're like, the fuck am I supposed to do now? And part of that, unfortunately, it is by design because a lot of companies don't have, once again, the ability, they don't have the resources in their minds, right, to be able to train and develop leaders in this respect. They feel that, all right, we're just going to put them through the fire and whoever comes out, that's who we're going to keep as a leader. And once again, I feel that, especially for small organizations, that's one of the worst things you can do to your people because it sucks when you have somebody who has the years, the tribal knowledge with your organization, and they have the want to move up, but you're not training and developing their skills to be able to take it. They don't have anybody in their life that has done that for them. So what are they supposed to do to be able to get to that point? They're trying to mimic everything that they see, but what they're mimicking isn't the actual actions that need to be taken. It's not the actual developing of other people, okay? I've seen it happen, and I've seen those people get promoted up and right away demoted, and get promoted again into that same role and back to demoted. That shouldn't be happening. You should have a way to train and develop these people, and it is not that difficult to be able to do. That is a talking point, a topic for a different day. I'm just going to leave it there. Right? Now, for you, yourself, right now, the first thing you could do to help yourself and help your team is be prepared for the week. Be prepared for the month, for the quarter, for the year. Have an idea of what you want to attain for the year. Have an idea of what you want to hit, right, for the quarters. Having an idea doesn't mean it's set in stone. And that's where a lot of people get things kind of mixed up. They think that if I have something, it's set in stone and this is, no. You have an idea, ideas can change, right? Things are going to change throughout the year. There's, once again, a lot that's going to be changing this year. We've been going this last week back and forth between, tariffs, no tariffs, tariffs. We left Friday with, okay, there's not going to be any tariffs on, because there's going to be exceptions, right? On electronics, cell phones, laptops. And that was going to be fixed. Now we come back into this week with, it's only going to be temporary. Maybe it's going to be a 90-day reprieve. Maybe it'll be just for a few days. Maybe they'll decide, you know what? I changed my mind. At the end of this week, those tariffs are back on. 145%. Okay? And that's the kind of stuff that happens. right? So this is the reason why you have to be, as a leader, very nimble. You have to have an idea, but you have to have that flexibility. You have to have those frameworks that allow you to be able to move around and adjust as needed to what's happening at the, the large macroeconomic scales, okay? Because those are going to affect the microeconomic scales of your community. It's going to affect it a lot. So right now, once again, be prepared. Have those conversations with your team. Make sure they understand what we need to do, what we need to achieve, what we can do to be best at, the best at being successful at what is currently happening. And that's going to involve training, developing, coaching. Those three things go hand in hand with how your team is going to respond to what's going to be coming down the pipe and what is coming down the pipe. So, because keep in mind, when your team sees you as a leader not being prepared, they don't have to know that you're not prepared. They know because you're scrambling. You're constantly sending GroupMe messages to everybody. You're harassing everybody, essentially like, where are the numbers? Where are we at? Where this? Instead of having trust in your team that things are going to happen. Instead of having that trust in your team that, you know what, my team can handle it. My team can take this. They're going to step up. Boom. Let's get it taken care of. And that's going to be, a reflection of your leadership. And you know that because your team is going to have those unwanted characteristics or those wanted characteristics, right? Unwanted by wasting time on the floor. Wanted by, taking a little bit of an initiative and stepping up and doing some outreach. Doesn't mean that they're going to be 24/7 on the phone doing outreach all the time, right? Because obviously it's not always feasible. Things happen in any institution unless you have something that's automated that's knocking it out for you. It's going to be, kind of make and break, take and break. Okay, we're going to do this and then we're going to take a break. We're going to do this, we're going to take a break. And it's just the flow. But those smaller actions they take are going to pay dividends, and it's going to cause a bigger wave, essentially, of productivity to hit. And that's when you're going to see a lot of things really popping up for you. Now, great leaders, they plan their week. They don't just let it happen, right? They don't just, I'm going to plan this day. No. All right, this is what I got to knock out for the week. These are the locations. This is the things that have to get done this week. Boom. And then you also know what you got to do for the month, right? You plan out your month, you plan out your week, and then your day is much easier to adapt to. If you have those, meetings that just end up popping up on your calendar that you have to do, it's easier to adjust your day to that when you know what has to happen throughout the week. Instead of wondering, all right, today I got to go to this location. Okay. And in the morning you wake up, all right, today I got to go. You know what you got to do. Okay. All right, I got to be at this location that's 3 hours away. All right. I know that a week ahead. So I've already got everything planned out. It's doable. It's done. You're good. They know you're coming. They know it's going to happen. And you're solid, right? There's very little recourse. There's very little time needed to make adjustments to your travel plans. You're good to go. Okay. And just like you don't want to walk into a store without knowing what the KPIs are for the store, you shouldn't walk into a week without any kind of coaching plan. Because once again, we're talking about training, developing, coaching as the key elements, the pillars to making sure that you as a leader have a successful team. Because if your team succeeds, you're always going to succeed as a leader. The focus isn't on you. The focus is on your team, on making sure that they're as successful as possible. Because my success as a leader solely relies on their success as not just individuals, but as teams, right? And that's very important. When you're training your team, when you're coaching your team up, you're coaching them to be part of a team. They're individual contributors, but they're also contributing to the larger picture. And the larger picture is what matters the most, because that's what's going to make the stores successful. And that's what's going to make you as a leader successful. So you got to make sure your team is successful as possible, and they can't do that without your support. And you support your team through training, through developing. That happens through coaching sessions. Write-ups are not coaching sessions. Once again, repeat with me. Write-ups are not coaching sessions. That is super important to drill into your head. Okay? Super, super important. I cannot overstate that at all. And if you're wondering, well, how do I have a successful coaching session? How can I make sure I'm successful? Simple. Take a look at the bio if you haven't already. Take a look at the description. Download the 15-minute coaching framework for yourself, for your team. Use it. It is super important that you have something to coach off of. Hey, your company, if they were successful in leadership, they would have a leadership succession plan in place. They wouldn't be looking for external candidates to fill in like leadership roles at any level, because they already have qualified candidates that are going to be able to move up into those ranks. I get it. Sometimes you want to bring outside talent because they have an outside perspective, but it shouldn't be that 90% of the candidates or the roles are being filled by outside candidates for these leadership roles. They should be coming up through the ranks because they understand the tribal knowledge. They understand the culture of the company. They're going to be around for a while because they have been around for a while. That is super important. That is what you're looking for. That is what you're needing. Boom. And that happens through training, developing, which happens through coaching. So take a look at the bio, take a look at the description, make sure you get that framework for yourself, for your team, start using it right away. On top of that, make sure, once again, you've mapped out your visits, you know what follow-up sessions, what coaching sessions you're gonna do, have an idea as to, all right, this team's been kind of struggling in this KPI, this is what we're gonna focus on. Don't come in with 5, 10 different KPIs on what you need. Find the one that's the most relevant, that's gonna be that keystone, that cornerstone for them to be able to pivot everything else off of. Because here's the thing, guys, as leaders, you think your team needs to improve on everything. No, they need to improve on one thing. That one thing is gonna be their pivot. That one thing that they can change and be truly successful in is what's going to set the tone for everything else. And that's how they're gonna move forward and really achieve success. Enough with trying to improve 3, 5, 10 things at once. It's okay to have a couple different focuses. Limit it to 3. Focus on one that's going to affect all 3. And you'll see the rest of them come up. Okay? It's like, all tides, or right, all waves rise tides, or whatever the saying is. But a rising tide lifts everything else up. And that's what that one focus is gonna do. It's gonna lift the rest of the KPIs, and you're gonna see a really great achievement, really great success with the rest of the team. So that's super uber important for you guys to understand. Keep that in mind. Keep it close. If you're wondering, what do I need to do? Simple. What are your top 3 coaching priorities this week? And if you had to think about it, maybe it's a little bit too late. But you know what? The best time to have done this was last week. The next best time is today. Don't waste time. Spend a little bit of focus, a little bit of attention and time, and find out what that is and map out your week. Be prepared. Do it for your team. Do it for their success. Because their success literally correlates with your success. It's that simple as a leader. Now, when you're making things up as you go, if you think your team doesn't know that you're a really good bullshitter, no, your team knows. They definitely know, because you're going over stuff that they've already talked about, they've already mentioned to you, and you're acting like you don't remember it, because you may not remember it. So much has happened, right? Where they're focused on what's happening in their location, you're focusing on what's happening in the region. Not just at yours, but also what's happening everywhere else. And you might be part of different projects, right? With me, not only did I have my district that I was in charge of, I also helped my regional and the VP with interviews for the region, right? So I didn't just have my territory, I also had to do extra things outside of my normal scope of work, because I was involved in other projects outside of just being a district leader. Okay, and that's where you have to really start focusing in, making sure you have things mapped out, making sure you have a plan of attack for what you're doing, right? You gotta be prepared. And if you're not prepared, it makes things that much difficult for you as a leader, and your team's gonna see through it, okay? And if they know that you're not preparing, One, what you're telling your team is that they're not worth your time as a leader to prepare for, to become good and be really, really focused on, okay? That's gonna hurt them more than anything else. You wanna make sure that they don't have that mindset of, oh, my leader doesn't care about what I do. They don't care about us because we're not preparing for a visit. They don't pay attention. We're nowhere in mind for them. And that's not something you want them to go through. That's not something you want them to feel like, okay? When reps feel like their leader is winging it, they stop believing in the coaching matters. When you go in prepared, they know you're gonna come in doing coaching, it lets them know that, all right, this is what we're gonna attack, this is what we're gonna do. You've said it before, you let them know ahead of time, like, hey, when I get in there, and if they did great in that and they're already stepping up to the plate when it comes to whatever coaching sessions you were gonna do, great. Follow up on the sessions, right? What else? How are they doing? It's not just, okay, you're doing great, we're just not gonna do any coaching. No, spend a little bit of time. Let them know that, all right, you as a person, you as an individual matter, not just to the team, not just to me, but you as a person are important. So we're doing great here, cool. I'm not gonna, kick you on anything else because we set a goal beforehand. You're kicking ass in that goal. Let me check up on you. What's going on? How's everything else going? Then you start building a little bit more focus. They start understanding that you as a leader care for them. You want them to make sure that they're happy. If they're planning on, for instance, taking a vacation, cool. We got vacation coming up, awesome. Everything's gonna be good. You already got everything planned out. You're hitting above, so commission-wise, you're solid, blah, 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 right? You're letting them know so that they also let you know, cool. You're having communication, you're building that culture, okay? And that's, I think, sometimes when you talk about training and developing coaching, if you feel that, all right, well, they're still hitting the quota, you know what? Fuck it, you gotta hit even higher. No, let them take ownership. If they want to hit higher than what their goal was set, hey, then what they set their goal, cool. If they want to talk about something else, it's a training and developing session. By understanding what matters to them, by what they're telling you, you have a better idea of how you'll be able to train and coach and develop them going forward. And they're going to let you know about certain things as well, right? Maybe later down the road, something happens and their performance is lacking. They have that trust that they can open up to you and talk to you, and you're going to be assistive. You're going to be empathetic, right? You're not just going to throw them under the bus and be like, well, screw you, doesn't matter. No, they have that trust in you as a leader, okay? So it's very, very important. And then the other thing too, guys, when you're preparing for your week, your month, your quarter, your year, okay, prep work creates consistency because your team knows what to expect, okay? Consistency will help you build clarity, will get you results. More importantly, it's gonna help with the culture because you're having better conversations. You're training, you're developing, your team knows, all right, he's just stepping in. Cool. It's not some random visit because we're fucking up. No. Your team shouldn't ever feel that whenever you, as a regional director, as a district sales manager, as a VP, when you're stepping into locations because we're fucking up. It's be like, cool, hey, thanks for swinging by. It doesn't matter if they're like performing poorly. And when I say poorly, right, for me, that was maybe 98%. It's ensuring your team knows the focus. They know, all right, if we get a visit, cool. It's not that it's not a big deal, but it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad visit, okay? They feel comfortable in being able to, have executives around without it being an issue. That is super important. So that's one of the reasons why being prepared is super important. You guys have heard the adage, right? If you don't prepare, you prepare to fail, right? It's more so preparing so that when something happens, you fall back to your training. Realistically, it's very rare that somebody's going to, jump up to the occasion. It's more realistic. People are going to fall back to whatever level of training that they've had. So when shit hits the fan, I know whether you as a leader did a good job or not because of how your team is performing. That is where it's super, super important for you guys to understand and get that, okay? Because if that's not happening, then it's going to become a bigger issue. And that's what we want to avoid as leaders. That's what we want to avoid as not just leaders, right? But as somebody who's shepherding teams to success. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it there, right? I know that we went over, talked about quite a bit, don't worry, okay? If you can't coach on the fly, you can't expect your teams to fly, right? You gotta be prepared for their success. You gotta help them prepare for their success. And once again, you guys, thank you for stopping in, taking time, joining us on another Sales Manager Academy episode. If you have any questions, leave a DM, right? Leave a comment. For anything else, don't forget, hit the like and follow button, and I'll catch you on the next one.